Welcome to the Unbearables podcast. I'm Brandon Ruiz, and I'm here with
Emilio.
Zeke Cappel.
And Cerebral from Smack Talk, Leave It on the Court.
And today we're going to talk some Zach LaVine. Now, he's getting paid $78 million over 4 years. How do you guys feel about that?
We're not in danger. This isn't necessarily a big issue. This isn't blocking up extending and expanding Markkanen's contract in the future. This isn't going to be a big issue. Is it a lot of money? I think so. But in the overall, I'm not too worried about it. But I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I am concerned about it. This deal stops them from being able to get 2 max contracts next offseason.
They can get one, though.
They can get one, but the way the NBA works nowadays, these guys want to go in sets of let's team up. Zach LaVine doesn't have the star power to bring another superstar and say, hey, let's team up, let's build a team together. So there's the rumor of Jimmy Butler and
Kyrie wanting
Irving,
to play together.
And not to say that there's a definite chance them coming to the Bulls, but it's better to have that cap space than not.
And I understand that. But I also feel like if they don't make this move, it kind of makes them look like a joke to any other free agents that are even thinking about signing with the Bulls, because it shows that they don't want to put commitment towards their players.
Definitely, it's a double-edged sword. It was a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly wasn't even thinking about that max contract situation. I was just thinking about, like, yeah, he's a good player, but this kind of, if he does end up being, like, all right, because he's not going to be a superstar or nothing.
Well, he's only 23 years old. I don't think he's going to be a superstar, but
I could be doubting him, but I just feel like this is going to ruin our tank. I was kind of hoping, we could still not be very good, but if he comes into the season playing like he did last season, then we're gonna probably be like 9th or 10th seed in the East.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I do not think he's going to play the same way he played last season. I feel like if you look at something, right, Zach LaVine, he shot the same amount of field goal attempts every single game as he did the year prior, right, when he did play. But in that season, 2017, he played 37.2 minutes per game. In this season, last season, he played 27.3 minutes per game. So I don't think Zach LaVine was playing like the Zach LaVine he normally is. I think because
it was basketball.
Wait, what'd you say?
It was rehab basketball.
And that's what I'm saying. But I'm also saying this, though. He's doing that. The way he played, the way he threw up all those shots is because he wanted to show people he could still play for this contract. And I mean, he got the contract he wants, if we're going to be honest. But I don't think he's going to do this again and again and again.
See, I've been pretty skeptical of LaVine at the Bulls. And the reality was I wasn't too hot on him on the team, but he is young. He's a swing man. And the reality is he does have a drive, and he wants to prove something. In response to his critics, he said, I'm my hardest critic. There's nothing that any of you guys can say to me that I don't take harder upon myself. I go back and critique my game every year. I'm used to people sleeping on me, and I'm used to waking them up as well. And what that tells me is he does have a drive. He wants to win, and he has stated over and over again that the Bulls franchise is the franchise he wants to be with. So in that sense, I think it is a good move just to flip around the way the Bulls have their front office viewed right now to lock him down in that aspect. On the court, now I think that's a little bit of a situation. I do think it's going to be a risk because that injury he might not recover all the way. Like it's happened before with his injury, but only the year will tell.
With the Bulls, I think the best thing that they got going for him as far as Zach LaVine is concerned is that he's just now about to hit the prime of his life. He's 23. You got him from 23 basically to 27. This is when players mature. So if he's going to be that stud, I don't necessarily want to say a star because I think that's reaching a little bit, but if he's going to be a stud, you're more than likely going to get that in this contract.
See, and I actually was thinking about that as well, because the good thing about this contract, because there are some negatives, but there also are some positives, is that Chandler Hutchison and Wendell Carter, their contracts, I think, both expire at the same time Zach LaVine's expire.
Right.
And so they can choose which players they like more at that point. And you will know what Zach LaVine is a lot more than you'll know what
Oh, you'll know
Hutchison.
100% what he
and-
is.
Yeah, by that point. And so that's why I think it's good that this contract actually occurred if you're actually really considering keeping LaVine on your team. Because if you're planning on keeping him on your team, then you have to know what he is in the long term. So, and if you know what he is, you know what he's worth. And if the Bulls don't do this, they don't know.
It's going to end up either being a bargain deal or a terrible signing. But either way, they kind of had to do it because the Bulls have a really bad perception of not playing quote-unquote talented players, letting them walk or, undercutting them price-wise. So you had to match this if you want a shot of signing anybody worthwhile in free agency. LeBron and D. Wade in 2010, the Bulls had a horrible reputation. They let Tim Duncan walk. They couldn't get Tracy.
Couldn't do a lot of
you
things.
let Michael Jordan walk. That's something that everyone's favorite players. That's everyone's favorite players growing up in the league right now. They all remember they let Michael Jordan walk.
The Bulls don't have a good image in this regard of signing players.
The thing is to me, I actually did kind of like that we signed him just because it was actually a risk that we took. And the Bulls don't take a lot of risk. If you look at our draft, we drafted Wendell and Lowry, and I thought those were like safe draft picks. When we drafted Wendell, it was like we know what he's going to be for the future, and we know what he is for the team. And with LaVine, I just thought in my head, I was like, the Bulls aren't going to sign him. And then when they did sign him, I was like, it kind of gave me a sense of, oh, we're willing to take risks.
They're trying, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's how I took it.
well, that's the nice thing about what's going on here is that you're seeing this front office actually make some somewhat risky moves that could pan out well, and that's what I like about this. I guess I've had a lot of criticisms over Gar and Pax, as almost I feel like everyone has had in the past, but I am actually really, really interested in how this is going to play out because Zach LaVine, although he did have this injury, he's only 23, and what I saw last season, he didn't play as well as I would have liked, but he still has supreme athleticism. It's there. And if he isn't 100% last season like people are saying, he still has a lot to show you.
In his defense, he only played 24 games, I think it was, and they held him back a lot of that. So you weren't going to see a healthy Zach LaVine at all at any point, like a fully recovered Zach LaVine. So,
and even mentally, he had a chip on his shoulder. He was trying to prove something, so now the pressure's on.
Yeah, there was some pressing. I mean, the best game that he had in a Bulls uniform was against the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
And there's no coincidence in that at all.
It wasn't. Well, I actually see one thing I want to say about that is that he played really well against the Timberwolves. I get that. It was a 114-113 victory. He scored 35 points, 11 in the fourth quarter. But just as a basketball player, who do you play well against? People you play against all the time, or people you don't know their playing style? He was just on that team. So part of me feels like he knows how to play against some of those Timberwolves players because he was practicing with them.
The main person that he was playing against was Jimmy Butler.
I
Who
understand.
he has no familiarity with.
But that wasn't the whole game though.
Fourth quarter it was.
The fourth quarter, he did show out in that game, but I just feel like there are some things that how that offense, how that defense runs. He knows how things work over there,
Which means he knows the holes.
and that's why I feel like he didn't play that well against any other team the whole season.
True.
And that's what I worry about with Zach LaVine. But I do believe he has a lot of potential. He does have a lot of offensive tools. But one thing for sure is 38.3% from the field is not cool.
It's great from three.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, from three, it's great. It is.
outstanding.
Yeah, I would take that any day. But from the field, that is not something that can stand next season. Like from Zach LaVine, he can't even have a 40% from the field. Like it's just that's a thing that cannot happen.
High 40s is okay.
No, I'm just saying
just
40
flat.
Yeah, 40 flat. It can't happen.
His shot selection has to get better, but I think a lot of it was getting shots up. It was rehab basketball, legitimately. Yeah. So I think you're going to see a lot more structured offense out of him individually, and you're going to see Fred and the coaching staff try to develop him into this offense with Dunn and marketing and Wendell.
Yeah, I feel like he's actually going to fit in really well with them. The thing is this season when he played, he acted like he was the number one option and that he was the leader of the team and he took a lot of shots, But I don't really feel like he's going to do it this season, like I feel like he'll make like average 2 or 3 less just because of the guys that we have in the team now.
For the betterment of the Bulls team, he cannot be the leader of the team. Just because if you want the team to work, like, you have to let Chris Dunn run the offense if you have him as your point guard. Because Chris Dunn makes the players around him better. Zach LaVine does not make the players around him better. Especially if he doesn't shoot better. I know Zach LaVine has a lot of offensive weapons and all these things that Chris Dunn doesn't have, because Chris Dunn is still developing his three-point shot. Although, as we have noted before, it has been getting better. Chris Dunn has to be the leader on this team, because that's just how it'll work. That's the only way it'll work if you have him as your point guard.
Honestly, I feel like Chris Dunn is going to really improve this year because in the 1 year he went from the Timberwolves to the Bulls, he had a really good improvement, and I feel like now that he's with the franchise that, you know, that actually gave him a chance, I feel like he's going to improve even more next season.
With going back to LaVine, I absolutely agree with you, Brandon. He can't be the guy. And what does worry me is that it doesn't seem like his mentality is shifted in any way. Now more than ever, he wants to be that guy. He said just a few days ago, at the end of the day, I believe in myself. I believe in my work, and I'm going to show the city of Chicago it's a good choice, and I'm here to stay. I'm going to be their guy, and I'm ready to do whatever to help this team get back to that spot. And it concerns me because I think what's going to be best for the Bulls is letting Markkanen take that role.
I think he could be their guy, but their third guy.
So what makes it difficult is that LaVine, Dunn, and Markkanen played 11 games together on the court at the same time, so you don't know what that really looks like when they have a rhythm together. So the way that they play together, it very well could be where Zach's the lead dog and Markkanen's, his Robin, so to speak. It may come out the other way. We don't know yet. But until they have enough time to build some chemistry, you're not really going to know what that combination really looks like on who's the lead dog. Because when it comes down to it, the best player shows. And it gets to a point where it's undeniable. I mean, your ego is the only thing that holds you back.
Well, Zach LaVine does have closing ability, and you did see that in that Timberwolves game. And so I think he does give you a lot of potential value. I'm not saying that like he can't have moments of being your guy. I'm just saying like for most of the game, though.
I think Markkanen can carry the game for the most part, and Zach LaVine be your closer. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a co-leader type of thing. Very possible. Very, very possible.
I think that Markkanen, I feel like he should be the leader of the team just because if you watch him play, he's not scared to do anything. If someone blocks him, he runs down the court and like plays the best defense of his life. Like he really wants it. And that block against Steph Curry was awesome. You know,
just favorite Markkanen highlight all year.
Yeah. For sure. And we're gonna see a lot more of that with Wendell Carter. The human block party. I'm just saying, like, that dude on his debut, 5 blocks. Second game, 4 blocks. I'm just saying.
50% field goal. That's crazy. And he had 100% free throw percentage, too. He made 2 or 3 threes.
That's what you want out of your center. You want him to be not terrible at the free throw line. Make the bunnies. Because, I mean, at the 5 position that he's going to play, he's going to have a lot of bunny opportunity, just a lot of putbacks and stuff like that, and defend the paint. If he can do that from day one, then that is an awesome draft pick.
Yeah, he seems like he's so far in the Summer League, he's been playing his role perfectly on the team. And before we even talk about blocks, I just want to talk about his three-point shot. The 2 that he made, they looked really smooth. Like, they looked really good. It really seems like that's going to actually translate to, actual NBA games. And that's what it kind of excites me because we're going to be able to spread the floor more.
Well, his movement off the ball is actually pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie.
He's really athletic.
Well, yeah,
really athletic.
He is really athletic. He's really strong, and I think he's really smart. I mean, and that's what that's like the whole narrative about how he could have went to Harvard and all this stuff because he had like a really high GPA. I think he has a really high basketball IQ for his position. Now, he can't really show it as much as some other players because he does play the center position, so he doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot. But what he does, I'm excited to see. I want to see some more blocks, so I like him as a rim protector.
You see how he played in college. He took a secondary role for the betterment of the team. So he's got the amount of ego that I want my rookies to have, and it's none. He understands the concept of team basketball, we over me, and I think that's exactly why they drafted him. You're not going to be our lead dog. We're never going to make you that. You're going to be a role player that's exceptionally great at your role.
And that's what the Bulls need, especially because I know one thing I noticed when watching a lot of Bulls games is that they definitely did not get enough second chance points. They definitely did not get enough rebounds. And I think
they didn't get enough points.
Well, yeah, they did not get enough points in general. But that's part of the problem, though. If you don't get the rebounds after you miss, that's taking away a lot from your game. And I think that Wendell Carter can do that for you. And I think he specifically was picked, and that was for that reason and a few others. I mean, they definitely need a rim protector, and they definitely know that, I'm sorry, Robin Lopez, he plays his role, but he's just not athletic enough. He does do what he needs them to do, but you're going to need someone like Wendell Carter on your team, and it shows. I was a little skeptical at first.
So was I.
But I wasn't skeptical on the picking up Wendell Carter. I was skeptical of them picking him at 7.
Right.
Because I feel like there could have been a possibility where you trade down, like you maybe a few picks down and still get him.
Takes 2 to tango.
Yeah. And that's definitely something that could be said, but I don't know if the Bulls actually tried, though. And that's what concerns me, because you don't know what the Bulls sold a pick last year. So I don't know how the Bulls, you know what I mean? I don't know how the Bulls handle those types of situations. But I like what I see from him. I also like what I saw from Antonio Blakeney, at least for game 1.
Oh, yeah.
25 points. What I like about Antonio Blakeney is what I've kind of always liked about Antonio Blakeney is that his quickness and his speed makes him, I guess, create the separation he needs to get his jump shot off. And that's something that I really like seeing when I watch Antonio Blakeney, because the Bulls need that from him. They need that from their scorers. And I think it would be really cool to see him come off the bench with that second unit and have some other scoring options on that second unit. Because definitely a lot of the times when I was watching last season, there were a lot of bricks out there. Enough to build a house.
You were talking really highly of Blakely, I remember, on other podcasts that we talked about, but yeah, he had a really good all-around game, and I think the thing that I really liked about him too is they shot over 50% when he got those 25 points, and that, obviously made me happy. Gives me a better reason to have a backup point guard.
See, and I just want to say this though, because you have to tell the whole story though. I think Blakeney did shoot the second game 14% from the field. So, you got to tell the whole story.
That's true.
So, but I've seen a lot.
It's been 2 games, so we just have to wait it out.
Yeah, we do have to wait it out. We've been waiting it out. But I think it's interesting. I really do. I just want to see what he can add to this team, because I think he can add to this team. You don't need him to be your your shooting guard. I would like to see him be a point guard, actually, eventually, but I know that for the betterment of the team, he'd probably be better as a shooting guard.
Keep Cameron Payne off the floor.
Have you? See, I agree with that. I would actually rather see Ryan Arcidiacono play over Cameron Payne, honestly.
Here's the thing. The only reason why I'm fine with they have Cameron Payne is because we can lose more games with him.
We could lose more games.
I really want to tank so bad. We really need a good pick. If we're winning, we got to sub in Cameron Payne.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that the Bulls front office really didn't like tanking, and they weren't that good at it.
No.
They're the only team that's bad at losing.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. We started the season out losing, and we were like, yes. Everyone was like...
And then Nico came back, and he had something to prove, and we won, 10 out of 12 games.
Yeah, it was
frustrating.
It was so frustrating. And I remember I always go on Twitter for basketball. Every Bulls fan was like, we can't even tank right. That's what they kept saying. We can't even tank right. We can't do anything right.
Well, it's not their fault that they're also going to get fined for tanking. They were taking the starters out of the game. They're like, Adam Silver's like,
there's a right way and a wrong way to tank, and Philadelphia has been doing it for years. You get all the talented players, and you ship them out of town.
See,
that's the process.
Yeah,
but
trust the process.
But the problem with that is that it's not like they completely did it on their own, though. Their players were injured. So, they didn't play just because they didn't want to play. They didn't play because they couldn't play.
Zach LaVine and Marketing, you had legitimate excuses to hold them out, and you don't have to show injury reports in the NBA. So those two were fine. And even
but I think Zach LaVine wanted to play, though, to prove himself a little bit more.
And even Dunn had a major injury.
Yeah, he
had the
like, fell on his
concussion.
face or
He
something.
literally-
That was gruesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
He broke the floor. He actually dented the
Yeah, he chipped it.
That was
Ugh,
oh my
it's
god,
awful.
That was ridiculous.
That was a concussion. That's how those look.
Yeah, that's how. Well, he lost a tooth too. So there's a lot of stuff that happened to Chris Dunn.
See, I saw it live, and when he was running, I was like, he's running kind of fast. And I was just like, he is running, he is hauling
He's like,
to this bucket, and there's no one in front of him.
like the
and
basket's
bang.
is kind of right there.
2010 when the Bulls were playing the Philadelphia 76ers, the second game after Derrick Rose tore his ACL,
Yeah.
Joe Noah steals the ball and he's running full court. So Joe, give up the ball. Joe, give up the ball. Joe, give up the ball. And I don't remember exactly what he does. He busts up his knee. It's like, that's why I wanted you to give up the ball.
Give the ball. See, that's the thing. I mean, it was a mistake. I get it, but at the same time, I feel like you're right. They did have some chances, but with Zach LaVine wanting to play, they weren't gonna. I think the biggest concern was keeping him happy, because you want him to want to be a Bull, and he wants to bring his value up. And if you're not going to let him bring his value up, he's definitely not going to be happy about that. And
the Bulls had all the cards in their hands though, because he's a restricted free agent. They had the final say on if he walked or not.
yeah, they did. But the thing is, I feel like if you're planning on him being a piece of your future, you're going to still want him to be happy. And players, they remember all that stuff.
4-year contract. I don't care if you're happy. You're gonna do whatever I tell you to. This is a business.
I guess.
And I'm very pro player, but there's not a whole lot that he can do in that situation. He has very little power.
But also, if he doesn't play, does he get a 4-year contract? An offer sheet from the Kings for a 4-year contract?
And what does everyone else offer if they don't see him play?
And that's the thing. What if you don't have another team? I mean, you
This
can give
is
him.
chess.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. This isn't just basketball. This is business.
Yeah,
We're
no,
talking
for
stocks.
sure.
The Bulls wanted a team to offer him something, but they wanted it lower than 4 years, 78. They wanted the 4 years. That much I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to pay him $19 million a year.
Well, what I saw in a report was that they wanted to pay him around 14 to 17 million a season,
Which is fair.
and Zach LaVine did not think that was fair.
He was upset. He
He-
said he was disappointed.
He was disappointed that he had to take an offer sheet from another team, is what he said.
Right.
And
When a team has this opportunity, when you're not a superstar, this is what happens. There's only 5 players that are going to automatically get the money that they want right off the rip. Everybody else, guess what? You got to go get an offer sheet.
I do think that this was the right move to make. I just feel like you have to keep them happy, though. I want to see my players want to play for the Bulls if they're playing for the Bulls. I don't want them to be like, well, I'm stuck here for 4 years and just not want to be here, because what if he does turn out to be a good player, right, in this 4-year contract, and then he wants to get traded? That could be good for the Bulls, but
You got the first 2 years to figure out if he's going to be a good player. After that, you can mend things over. Regimes fall, new front offices, everything. If it comes to that, I mean, Gar and Pax aren't going anywhere. Let's face it.
Yeah, I know.
They've been there for 15 years now.
yeah, 15.
They've made plenty of mistakes, and they still haven't been fired. So it's safe to say they can work there as long as they want.
Honestly, though, it seemed like Zach LaVine was happy that he got the Bulls. The Bulls matched the contract anyway, so I wouldn't even worry about that
Well,
with him right now.
after
He
the
didn't want to
fact.
go to Sacramento.
No.
Nobody
way.
wants to go to the Kings.
Yeah. I
I
remember.
mean, maybe Melo should, but
Well, Melo, because maybe he just wants to start. That's why.
No,
That's,
Melo does not want to go to Sacramento.
Yeah, he said from
No,
the start
no.
though he wanted to play from the Bulls. He said from the start that I was upset because
Wait.
it seemed like the Bulls didn't want me. So, speaking of Zach LaVine,
oh, okay. I was like, Melo said that?
Melo did want to play for the Bulls.
a while ago.
Yeah. I don't want Melo on my team.
Yeah, well, I don't want this Melo on my team.
I want that old Melo.
Yeah.
I wanted that Melo.
Nuggets Melo.
Yeah, I wanted post. I wanted
Yeah, screw out the
free
post Melo.
agency. Went back to the Knicks Melo. I wanted that Melo, but this Melo, no, keep him away. Keep him far away.
Speaking
Don't you
of
dare do a salary dump.
Melo, the thing is like there's so many headlines of Melo right now saying where he's going, and everyone seems so interested. I'm like, dude, like, who cares? He's not even. He's not even. I don't really feel like he's gonna have a really good role on a championship team just because of his ego.
Let me start off by saying your guys' segues are so dope.
Thanks, man. We're trying to do our best here, but I think there are some teams that could use him. It just depends on if Melo wants to get used like the
Right.
way he should get used.
Or else we're gonna have an AI situation,
Yeah,
and he's gonna end his career prematurely.
he could.
Melo is fool's goat. Houston is desperate because they let 2 of their forwards go, and
And Clint Capella might be gone.
They might not be. Yeah, they might just not figure out how to keep him.
look, they're no longer a legitimate threat to the Warriors, and the Boogie Cousins thing withstanding, we don't know how that's going to turn out, but as they were last year, they were a legitimate threat to the Warriors. I don't see them as that now, and
No.
I think they will probably do whatever it takes to get Melo, because he's probably going to get a buyout, if not a trade and a buyout, and then they're gonna do whatever they have to get him there, and he's going to be their forward, and then they're going to realize, oh crap, he doesn't play defense.
Yeah, no,
Which Mike D'Antoni's not going to care about at first.
at first, but then when you're playing in the
Against
playoffs,
the Warriors.
well, there's a lot of things you have to consider when you play Melo, and defense is definitely one of them. It's like if he's gonna be on your team, yeah, you play ISO ball, and Melo, that's what he loves to do. He loves playing ISO ball. But the thing is, like you said, he doesn't play defense, and Melo doesn't take care of himself the way he should. And these are a lot of things you have to consider, but they want to win. And they gave Chris Paul a $160 million contract. He's getting paid more than LeBron James. That doesn't make any sense.
$40 million a year is crazy.
It is crazy. Chris Paul should not have gotten that from this team.
No.
And okay, I said this a while back. I said James Harden single-handedly ruined this Rockets team when he signed that big of a deal with the Rockets, because now you can't really have another big player, and then if you do get another big player, you can't make a good team. And then Chris Paul was like, I want to get paid $40 million a year too.
All your role players are walking.
And that's the problem. So your only chance is Melo in this situation.
To be fair, I feel like if the Rockets didn't offer Chris Paul a max contract, some other team would. I honestly would
Some
think
other
that.
team probably would have, but you ruined your team's chances by doing that.
Dude, I agree with you. I don't think there's any way Chris Paul wouldn't take a max, though. I don't really feel like he'd cut his money.
He
for
said
that.
he wouldn't. He says, I'm not taking a pay cut.
It's selfish, but
He's like, I'm trying my hardest to recruit LeBron, and he's like, but I'm gonna still get that max deal
Yeah,
though.
the second he signed that deal, LeBron coming was gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
No way that's happening.
That plus him opting out of his Cleveland contract, because if he opted in, they could have traded for him, and a lot of things would have happened and made that work. But the combination of him opting out and Chris Paul signing that huge deal, which pro player, get your money.
Yeah.
But now they're screwed. Their chances of getting back to the Western Conference Finals is in risk now.
The thing is, though, LeBron is a player that has taken pay cuts before, and so
Slight pay cuts,
but he still took them though.
It ain't just about
24
the money, though. It's about the pride pill he had to swallow to take anything less. So, even if it's a little bit of money, it goes a long way.
But LeBron is a smart enough player to understand that if you win championships, the money will come.
Yeah.
He has built a empire off of winning.
That's what I was going to basically say beforehand. I'm like, championships are forever, but like money comes and goes, and he has enough money than he'll ever need.
Yeah.
And he's only getting richer.
Right.
LeBron James, I think, is a billionaire after signing this contract. So the money isn't the issue for LeBron James. That's why I feel like Chris Paul should have at least tried to work with LeBron James, but he didn't. And now the Rockets are stuck with Melo.
Well, I feel
yeah.
like the difference between the Chris Paul and LeBron James situation is even if they win the chip with Chris Paul, his shoes aren't gonna go anywhere. Like his market's not gonna bring up. He wears, he's signed with Jordan, so like
It's not about his shoe market. It's about his advertising. People want to advertise a champion. Steph
True.
Curry has a water deal.
Yeah.
He literally has a water deal because he's a Splash Brother and he's a champion.
I mean, you got a point there.
I've seen those State Farm commercials, though.
For Chris Paul and State Farm. I'm just saying.
Those State
Cliff
Farm commercials
Paul.
are fire.
Where do you think, though, it would be better for Melo? Do you think that the Rockets would be better for Melo? I've also seen these rumors that the Philadelphia 76ers want Melo. And if in both of these
Somebody
situations...
needs to teach Ben Simmons how to shoot.
Yeah. That's definitely
I don't know
a
if
problem.
Melo's the guy though.
Oh, well, a lot of NBA players have said they think that Ben Simmons is shooting with the wrong hand. And I don't know how to feel about that.
I don't even know how to process that. I'm like, I don't know how you figure that out.
A lot of NBA players are ambidextrous. A lot of them.
Yeah.
Like LeBron.
I've had friends that have played Division 1 and they shoot with both hands.
And that's so weird. Like, I've heard of people that were like that, and I just don't know how they do it.
Well,
I can't even imagine.
Klay Thompson, when he hurt
best
his
in the
thumb,
world, you better.
when Klay Thompson came back from with the broken thumb, he switched shooting hands, and that's how he played the rest of the season.
Well, I mean, it helps your team, helps your value.
Right.
But sadly for Ben Simmons, he can't shoot with either hand. So it's just like, you're just stuck there. I just feel like, personally, if a team can get Melo to come off the bench, the most value you probably will get from Melo, like in helping your team, would probably be the 76ers, because they need the scoring and they need a small forward. But I don't know if Melo's going to swallow his pride if the guy he's sitting for is Robert Covington.
You'll never get Melo to come off the bench. It's going to be like an AI situation where he's too good for that in his head.
And if you did, that system would be absolutely perfect for Melo. The problem was with the Thunder is that they were fast. Their pace was fast just because of Westbrook, and I feel like if you went to the Rockets, your pace would also be fast because it's kind of like matching the Warriors' pace. But the Sixers, if you watch them play, they all slowly go down to the court together, like all five of them.
They have to slow it down
They have a
because
real center.
Yeah, they have Joel Embiid.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why it would fit their system. Like, it would work a lot with them.
Melo's not trying to run up.
Yeah,
up and
Melo
down
was not
like
running
that.
at all with the Thunder. He was
could,
slow.
He could move a little more if he's only playing 20 minutes a game. But I agree with you guys. Melo is not going to swallow his pride, and he's going to say, no, I need to start. And that's not for the betterment of the team. But it would be cool to see Ben Simmons feed him the ball, because I think Ben Simmons could really feed the beast if Melo's on that team. Like, it could make Melo look way better. See, the thing about Ben Simmons is that I feel like he makes better passes than Russell Westbrook in this area, where that he'll pass for the ball movement. He doesn't always pass just for like the assists. Like, Russell Westbrook's only passing for the ball movement if it's a play that's designed.
Oh yeah, he's passing for assists.
Yeah,
Westbrook is. Yeah,
and I think that Ben Simmons could help Melo out more than Westbrook could help Melo out in that situation. But it would be nice to see these two types of scorers with like Joel Embiid, Carmelo Anthony, and they could actually coexist all on the floor at the same time. On the Rockets, Harden, Chris Paul, Melo could not coexist at the same time.
For Melo.
No,
and on the Rockets, it's just not.
Well, he could play if James Harden's on the bench and like Chris Paul is on the floor, like them two together, or James Harden's on the floor and Melo's on the floor.
They do like to play Chris Paul and James Harden opposite.
Yeah,
opposite teams and stuff. Basically, I just, like you said, the pace. I don't see
is not
Melo running up and down the court like that.
Right.
And then
he's
the
not going to play
Rockets
defense if he has to run up and down the court like that.
And the Rockets have legitimate championship aspirations if they add him onto the team. And when they get to the playoffs, and when you got to have Melo guard Kevin Durant, you're up for a rude awakening.
Good luck with that.
Because he was scorching Trevor Ariza.
Well, unless you put now this is the thing though. See, in that Rockets Warriors series, they had Clint Capella guarding Kevin Durant a lot, and he did learn how to guard Kevin Durant a little bit better as the series went on. So I don't think you're gonna have Melo on Kevin Durant. I think you're probably gonna have Melo on Draymond Green, and I think
Draymond Green will eat him alive.
But I think this is what I'm saying though. I think Melo could at least keep up with Draymond Green.
Draymond runs up the court with the rest of those Warriors.
He does, but I'm saying if Draymond has the ball and Melo's face up on him, he could keep up with him a lot better than he keeps up with Kevin Durant.
Guarding Draymond Green is a lot more difficult than people think, because Draymond Green is capable of having their offense ran through him, and they do that a lot. And if Carmelo's guarding him, I guarantee you that the ball's going to go through Draymond, just to make Melo's job that much tougher.
Right, but in context of the point, it's going to be harder to guard KD.
Yeah.
Like, that's not even I don't even think that's a question. I mean, the man, he's shooting over anybody.
Well, they're saying he's the hardest guy to guard in the whole league.
Right, exactly.
It's his wingspan.
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
his
like-
wingspan for sure.
Yeah, I feel like another huge problem with Melo joining the Rockets is the way his ISO, the way he plays. The whole thing with the Rockets is they have 2 ISO players, and everyone else is either a catch and shoot or a pick and roll guy or both. And Melo just would not fit into that system at all. And the problem was when the Rockets first started their season, everyone was like, "Can James Harden and Chris Paul coexist because they're both ISO players?" And the answer was yes, but I honestly don't think there could be 3 ISO players out there.
Well, as long as they're not playing all at the same time. But if they're playing all at the same time, that's where the problem lies.
That's why the bench is important if he sits on it.
Yeah, that's what he has to do. But I do think for Melo, the best thing that he should do is, if he does have a say in it, which he does because he has a no trade clause if he gets traded, is try to get to the Philadelphia 76ers and play on the bench.
I'm sorry. With that no trade clause, what I've heard is what he's trying to do is he's just trying to get to a team that will do a buyout.
That wouldn't do a buyout?
That will do a buyout. He doesn't care what team he gets traded to as long as he does the buyout, and then he signs wherever he wants to.
Okay. See, but if he wants to play there, they could probably afford him on the 76ers because they have cap space. They have a lot of cap space.
True.
So if they actually want him and he decides that he wants to play there and he wants a chance at contending for a championship, because it's either the Celtics or the 76ers next season.
But he's got to say yes because of his no trade clause.
Yeah, so he has to say yes.
Yes, because I think his way of going about it is, if they're not going to do a buyout, I'm not going to accept the trade there. So somehow the 76ers have to convince him, you should come here. We're going to trade for you and you should stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And we should try this out because we have a legitimate shot in the East, because everyone's saying it's wide open, and for us it might be. And
it would be interesting, especially with Joel Embiid saying that he wants to be the MVP next year. And why would you not want to play with the MVP next year?
So dope.
I'm just saying, like, if Joel Embiid becomes the Joel Embiid I think he can be.
Trust the process.
You got to trust the process. He does. I see a lot of good things out of Joel Embiid. He has a 3-point shot. He has a good post game.
That's right.
He's fast.
Yes.
He has good handles.
Yes.
He's too strong for basically anyone in the league.
Yes.
He needs to develop his game a little bit more, but no one can stop him.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. You get to Joel Embiid, if he becomes what he needs to become and he keeps on developing at the rate he's developing, when he's 28 years old, who's stopping Joel Embiid? Maybe Anthony Davis?
That's the only center that I'm undoubtedly putting ahead of him right now, is Anthony Davis.
But if Joel Embiid reaches his potential, I think he'll be right up there with Anthony Davis.
He'll never have Anthony Davis's athleticism.
I see, but his strength could be it could get to a point where it's too much for Anthony Davis, I feel like, because Joel Embiid has this athleticism and the speed and the strength, and it's like, yes, Anthony Davis has speed and he is a strong player, but if you look at Joel Embiid's build, he looks like kind of like a really strong 90s player.
Yeah, Joel Embiid's style
That's
of play
fast.
fits into like the old school, like Lonzo Mourning, young Shaquille O'Neal. That style, not necessarily that caliber, but definitely that style. Anthony Davis is more so this new age center, but he's the best of them. And he doesn't even play center. He plays the 4.
Yeah, he plays power forward. But the thing is I feel like if Joel Embiid stays on this track, he could reach some crazy heights just in regards of centers of all time if he wins some championships. Because Joel Embiid is only 23 years old and he's averaging 22 points per game, and he was almost Defensive Player of the Year already.
Mm-hmm.
He has a lot of things that he is really, really good at, and he only started playing basketball when he was 13 years old.
That's the biggest factor here, is that he's only been playing basketball for a decade.
True.
And honestly, I'm right there with you, Brandon. He is an incredible player. He's a talent and a specimen when it comes to all forms of physicality. I mean, maybe he doesn't have that much lateral quickness that you would, I guess, specifically want, but I mean, he makes up for it in every other category.
Yeah, he doesn't guard guards, so he should be fine.
Exactly.
Like his athleticism reaches everything you want him to reach and the players he's going to guard. And if someone comes into the paint where he is fast enough to get there.
Right.
And he's willing to. All the effort is there in every aspect of his game. He will, after falling down, he will get back up to try to make a block. Like, Joel Embiid does not stop.
The hustle don't stop. And the reality is, when he puts his back to that basket and spins around, he's making anybody miss.
I saw some Hakeem Dream Shake highlights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
His Hakeem Shake is ridiculous.
And he's trying to develop a skyhook, which I haven't seen in a while. He's trying to just have every aspect of a center that you would want in his game. So I think he could just the sky's the limit for Joel Embiid.
There's two things that Joel does that I think are absolutely beautiful to watch. One is his Hakeem Shake, and the other is his Euro step.
Yeah.
A big man should not have a Euro step that good.
Not like that. But
His
he just
is really
fools
good,
people.
too. It's flashy, too.
It's flashy, and it's like two of the biggest steps you'll ever see.
Well, he locks up players' knees
It's
when he
about
does it.
it's
Like, they
about-
don't know where he's going.
Yeah, it's about as big as you can get without being just like a leap, like a jump.
Right. It's a borderline travel, let's be honest.
Yeah, I
it's the
mean-
closest thing to a travel that a Euro step is. Euro step is a travel, let's be honest. It is.
Hey, I mean, if you take 2 steps, I mean, it's not a travel, man. It's not a travel. If you take
Two giant leaps.
Yeah, 2 giant leaps.
Both your feet are off the ground, Brandon.
I'm just saying, it looks nice. It works. It's within the rules. I'm cool with it as long as it goes in.
So you think he'll be? You guys think he'll be MVP next
I
year?
was just about to ask that question.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know about necessarily specifically next year, but he said MVP process has begun. Now,
As he
MVP
came out of the sand.
the process took 4 years as he came out of the sand. Process took 4 years, and now man's hot. So this year, I'm not sure. I'm thinking possibly, personally, it might be Kyrie this year. But next year, I think without a doubt, if things go well, he stays healthy and he plays the game and he develops where he wants to develop. Who else?
Who's going to stop him?
Who's going to stop that?
I believe that, like, now more so than ever, I believe that the MVP award is basically a waiting list. It's not your time, and I think there's 2 or 3 guys in front of Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis being one of them. Anthony Davis has been coming up in MVP talks a lot more year by year. He finished 3rd this year, and he came on late in the season. I think he has a full season like that. It's going to be really hard to keep him out of that MVP. And that's the one guy that's ahead of Joel Embiid. Maybe not with the moves because he doesn't have
have
the
those
shake.
flashy moves.
I think he has a Euro step, but Anthony Davis has point guard moves because he didn't really hit puberty until halfway through his
he was a
senior
point
year.
guard growing up.
Right,
Until
yeah.
he grew.
Till he grew like a foot and a half. So Anthony Davis, I think he's up next. I think that's the guy that everyone's going to look at. You still have Kyrie Irving. You still have Giannis, who I'm down on right now, but I'm going to give him another
He
shot.
needs to learn how to shoot the 3 ball.
If Giannis can shoot the 3,
It's over.
He is the best player in the Eastern Conference if he
Yeah.
can shoot the 3.
For sure.
I really believe it's going to be Kyrie Irving if he's healthy because I remember at the beginning of this season he was in early MVP talks. Like he was almost. I don't remember if he was either the second guy or the front runner at the beginning until he got injured, and then when he came back for a little bit, like he wasn't really talked about anymore just because his stats were a little bit down. But I feel like now that they have this whole team going. And they have all the hype going to this season. So first off, he has like the numbers because I feel like he'll average more, and he also has the storyline with him because now that the Cavs are not going to be as good now that LeBron left, the whole thing is it's either the Sixers or the Celtics, and I really feel like the Celtics are going to do a lot better than the Sixers this year, which is going to help Kyrie Irving with the storyline for him to get an MVP.
This don't really matter, but as good, they're going to be terrible. The Cavs are going to be horrible. But continue.
I think with Kyrie Irving, one of the things that hurts him as far as the MVP talk, and it's going to be in a lot of people's heads, is that this team got to the conference finals, got to within one game of the NBA finals without you playing a single playoff minute. So it's going to be really hard for people to separate that from him being an MVP. Now, because when he first started with the Celtics last year, it was, you switch him out for Isaiah Thomas and they don't skip a beat, because Kyrie's that good. Now it's, well, maybe they didn't even need Kyrie or, Isaiah Thomas. Maybe it's Brad Stevens as the MVP of this team.
That's true. That's true. I say one thing though, is that they're gonna look at that and be like, it's the postseason. Like I feel like a lot of people always try to look back at the postseason, but if he has like a 50-point performance or a few in the regular season, I just feel like they're gonna look past that.
He can overcome it. It's just gonna take a lot.
Right. I do feel like he's gonna win it over AD and Joel Embiid. I feel like AD is the most talented out of all of them. Oh, maybe Joel Embiid or AD. I don't know. It's kind of tied for me neck and neck. But I don't feel like AD is going to win it just because I don't feel like his team's going to be any better than last year.
I think they're going to take a step back. Rajon Rondo helped that team a lot.
Yeah, and that's really going to be against AD for this MVP talks.
Rondo did help that team a lot in the regular season. Wait, what? You were guess what?
He's in the Western Conference. Like, it's on arrival.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Rondo did help that team a lot in the regular season, but when it came to playoff time, when they were playing teams that they needed more ball movement to beat, like the Warriors, Rondo did not help them as much as he could have because Rondo is a floor general and he needs to have the ball in his hands. And so it was a little predictable when Rondo was running the offense. So that's why they had to sit Rondo a little bit more in that Warriors series. And Rondo did help probably AD's stats a little bit.
There wasn't a lot that they could do in that Golden State series.
No, there wasn't. But they had to sit Rondo. I was a fan of Rondo being a leader on that team, but I also realized that Rondo is not the answer for that team.
The Warriors are a cheat code, and it's really hard to gauge anything when you're playing against the Warriors because they are a cheat code. If you go a series back when they were playing Portland, Rajon Rondo shut down Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
He completely shut down Damian Lillard, who was having a MVP caliber season of his own.
Well, Damian Lillard is always playing really well, but he shouldn't have got shut down by Rondo. But the thing is, though, Rondo isn't a joke on defense. Never was, never will be.
People have been saying that he's slow, he's old, he can't play defense like that anymore, but I've yet to see that.
No, that's exactly how I feel, too. It's like, I know if you watch Rondo, he looks like he can lock down not lock down, but he could definitely play against anybody, especially on the defensive end.
When Rondo's motivated, he can lock up anybody. At the guard position.
At the guard position, yeah, because he is only like 6 feet tall. So it is like, or maybe 6'1". So he does have some limitations there. But I think going back, let's talk about Rondo, let's talk about Boston, go back to Kyrie. Going back to Kyrie winning the MVP, I could still see it though. Because Kyrie was like the ultimate team player for that Celtics team and still averaged 24.4 points per game. Like, he was making sure his teammates were playing, and while he was still scoring. And he wasn't slowing down anyone's development, especially not Jason Tatum. And I think that was an interesting factor to just put in because it's like Kyrie being Kyrie was not slowing down the rest of the team.
Right.
Like, some players being themselves, being the leader, having the ball in their hand all the time, slows down the rest of the team. But for Kyrie, it shows like he didn't do that. So I think that's very important in terms of like your MVP because your MVP needs to make sure the rest of your team is playing well too. And Kyrie definitely did that.
Yeah, I think that
go ahead.
Okay. So I feel like those numbers are great, but unless the Celtics have like a really good record next year, Kyrie Irving needs to up those stats just for the MVP award because there's going to be some other people in front of him that get like 30 points a game and like 9 rebounds, 8 assists. They average that, and they don't have their record, but they have like a similar record. And the only way that I feel like Kyrie Irving can secure this MVP award is if his team record's good, which it obviously will be. It will be either first or second. I feel like
first.
And
first or second.
First.
We didn't.
Definitely
I don't think
first.
anyone thought the Raptors were going to get the first, so we just never know. But
I mean, Kyrie only played 60 games though. Let's just put that into perspective.
The Raptors have the luxury of LeBron James not being in the Eastern Conference, so now they can play like that, and it might actually mean something. But I don't think anybody trusts the Raptors.
I like how we think like the Raptors are the Raptors, and they have DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, and they always have and Serge Ibaka, and they always have a good record. But none of us here think that the Raptors are going to be the ones making it to the finals.
Well, the thing
is, never going to happen.
A team based in Canada is trying to play basketball. Just let that sink in.
Hold on, the biggest thing with me though is like everyone I felt like has always overhyped the Raptors because None of them are franchise players. DeRozan is not a franchise player. He's
But he's
more like
the
a Jimmy
closest.
Butler player, and Kyle Lowry is like an Isaiah Thomas player, I feel like, or at least old Isaiah Thomas, not this Isaiah Thomas. I don't really feel like when your two best players are like that, I don't really feel like it's enough to even get over a hump in the playoffs.
I think another problem that's going to be for the baby dinosaurs is that Dwayne Casey is gone. They made the horrible mistake of firing him, at least I think. Like, he was doing the best he could. The problem with the Raptors was, like you said, LeBron. And now that's gone, and the first coach you could have had to deal with that first year with LeBron God could have been the talents of Dwayne Casey, and they decided no.
I would have given him a legitimate chance with Dwayne Casey to get to the finals, just because I don't even know if I believe that, honestly. Let me think back about this, because I had the Wizards beating them in the first round.
So did I, actually.
So did I.
and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Wizards either, but that's how much I was done with the Raptors. And then the atrocious showing that they had in the second round against LeBron, you guys remember the IG post where he said King of New York?
Mm-hmm.
He needs to say King of Toronto.
For real. No, for real.
Drake, you're not the sixth god. I am.
I am.
I mean, who can say that he's wrong if he says that?
No one.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's DeMar DeRozan, honestly. That dude just can't shoot in the playoffs. Like, I don't know what happens to him.
guy.
He's a second-tier player. He's not a franchise player. And you're not going to lead your team anywhere unless you have a franchise player. You can't, win the finals with that Celtics squad without Kyrie.
Yeah, you need
couldn't
at least,
win anything.
3 of them. Like, look at the Warriors.
Well, the thing is a franchise player to me is like a superstar caliber player. And that's what I mean. DeRozan's not a superstar. He's a star.
This is the problem with DeMar DeRozan. He came into the league probably 15 years too late. Because if he's playing in the 90s, the style of ball he plays is perfect. But because he's gotten better at the three, it's still not good. His lack of three-point shot in the league where guys are, taking 400 three-point attempts a year. If you can't do that well, then you're just you're second tier automatically.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's how it is nowadays.
I think Michael Jordan averaged 2 3-point attempts a game.
Yeah, that is true.
It wasn't a big deal back then.
But I think here's my problem with that too. I do believe that players nowadays, it is better if they can shoot a 3-point shot consistently, obviously, because it's 3 points. But I also feel like DeMar DeRozan feels pressure that he shouldn't feel to shoot the three. Because why are you taking shots that you don't have confidence in? And that's my problem with, because you should take the shots that have the best chance of making it in. You shouldn't take the shots that people are telling you to take. That has ruined a lot of NBA players' careers, is when they're trying to force their game to be something different than it is. And I know it's because the coaches are forcing that, but I feel like you should learn how to utilize the players you have the way they play, and that's how the best basketball is going to be played. You can maybe trade him eventually if you don't like it, but don't try to hurt your player for trying to play his style. He's been developing that style his whole life, and you need to be able to change, but you have to work with what you got.
The problem is that you're right, but if somebody's really good at shooting threes while you're really good at only shooting twos, eventually he's going to score more points than you. And when you have a team like the Warriors, like the Rockets, I think it was not this postseason, but last postseason, the last 4 teams standing in the playoffs were the 4 best 3-point shooting teams in NBA. That's not a coincidence. That's where the NBA is now. If you can't shoot a 3, you're automatically devalued.
Right. And going back to Brandon's point, though, it kind of reminded me of Ben Simmons. He can't shoot threes at all, and he didn't. He shot
well, he can't shoot in general.
I know, but okay, you get my point, though.
He has to be 3 feet away from the basket.
So he took that and he utilized it, and he used it in his game.
I can guarantee you, Ben Simmons. The reason why you don't see Ben Simmons at Summer League games is because he's at a gym practicing shooting, and he says better be what he's doing.
I saw a video of him making 40-something in a row. And
40 what?
Threes, I swear to God. I'll find a link or something.
Man.
He made a lot, but then everyone was like, oh, he can shoot now. Nah. It was like a year ago, too, when he did that, too. And he came in the league.
Just because
and he
you
couldn't
can
shoot at
make
all.
shots in a gym
Yeah,
doesn't
practice
mean
is
you
different.
can shoot.
Well, I'm just saying there's
Unless
a lot of
you're
hype
Steph Curry.
around it.
Yeah, or Jason Tatum. You know, we talked about this, but I want to know what you actually think about it. Jason Tatum actually had a better 3-point percentage than Steph Curry did this season.
Steph Curry coasted.
Yeah.
I honestly, that whole team just coasted this year. They weren't that interested in the regular season. Steve Kerr said it multiple times. Draymond.
They didn't even seem that interested in the first 2 rounds.
They didn't seem that interested in the first 3 quarters of the finals. Like, they looked like they weren't trying until they're like, all right, I guess we got to beat the Cavs now.
Well, once they got to the fourth quarter and they got sick, I mean, the Warriors never take first halves of games seriously. That's why they always have this deadly third quarter that once they hit you with this onslaught of threes, there's nothing you can do about it. It's because they're bored. They're absolutely bored. So, no, Steph Curry wasn't shooting his best this year. You know, KD averaged a measly, 25?
Yeah.
KD can average 30.
Easily. He can average 30
All Clay
easily.
cared about was getting his shots up. His same number of shots he gets off every year. That's all he cared about. They all focus about the playoffs. And once the playoffs hit, I mean, they're the kind of team that first round, meh. Second round, meh. This Houston Rockets team was talking a lot of crap all season. We'll get serious for you. The finals, meh.
Man.
The finals was meh. You could tell at times where like they weren't even trying, and it was kind of like, oh my god.
It was kind of boring to watch.
Yeah.
To be
Steph
honest
Curry
with
was
you.
trying in the finals because I legitimately think he won the finals.
He
MVP.
won.
Yeah.
I it was really close. I still think Steph deserved it a tiny bit.
Should have gave it to him.
Yeah, I still really think just because.
He should have got one by now. Like, let's be honest. Like, it
Here's
should
the
have
thing.
happened.
Didn't deserve one the first one.
This is my argument for why he gets it. Everyone always looks at Game 3 and was like, well, KD had that 40-game performance. And I'm like, yeah, but Steph carried him Game 1 and 2. You know what all the NBA analysts were saying? They were like, KD, you need to step up because Steph is carrying you right now. And he did step up. And then the last game, Steph had 37 points? And in one of the games, Steph broke the record for most threes in the final, and I'm like, how did you not give it to him?
Steph was trying to end that game 4 in the first quarter, and he basically did because they gave up.
Right.
Well, LeBron gave up after Game 1.
To kind of counteract your point, games 1 and 2, Steph was the lead, but KD was right behind him. Game 3,
it wasn't that far apart.
No, it wasn't that far.
Yeah.
But Game 3, when KD went off, Steph had a bad game.
He did.
And that's ultimately what cost him.
That's the thing. To me, I don't really feel like that was enough to not give it to him. I still really think that he deserved it over KD. And when everyone just looks at that one game and he didn't do very good, I was like, well,
when you only got 4 games,
yeah,
that weighed really heavy.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, but who do you think is the team that can contend against the Warriors?
96 Bulls.
96 Bulls. I didn't mean all time, but 96
Well,
Bulls.
that's the only answer I got for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the closest. I think without Ariza, and with them, I don't think they're gonna be able to keep Capella. I don't see the Rockets as a contender anymore. The Celtics. I think that's the closest situation
that
because
it.
they went and pushed LeBron to a 7-game series without Gordon Hayward and without Kyrie, and they're both going to be playing next year. So I think that's the only real situation here
the
for
Celtics
me.
stay healthy. That's your best chance because the Rockets are back in the field with everybody else in the Western Conference.
And I really am excited to see how this Celtics team is going to play because they played without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward.
They played 81 and a half games without Gordon Hayward.
And wait, you're right.
No, Gordon Hayward, I think he was only in for 6 minutes.
Yeah,
he scored one bucket and got injured. Yeah.
See, I think. Well, it's okay. He's good now, though.
I actually forgot about Gordon Hayward. I just realized that's even more talent. I feel like they have a chance even without Gordon Hayward to beat them.
The Celtics kept posting videos of him rehabbing.
That
honestly,
was interesting.
Him sitting on a chair and
shocked he didn't
shooting.
come back for the playoffs. I really am.
Well,
the way that they were setting it up, it was like, oh, he's getting closer. Closer for what? Is he coming back?
Yeah,
it would have
right?
been cool to see it. It really would have.
Well, Brad Stevens was like, no, he is not coming back. Every time people would say that, he's like, nope, he's not coming back. We're waiting till next season. We're waiting till next. And I think that's the smart move because.
You got to downplay it.
Well, the thing is, though, no, I'm not saying about him saying we're waiting till next season. I'm just saying they should have waited until next season because I want to make sure he's okay.
Well, I know this is different sports and it's a different situation altogether, but with the Cubs, when they went to the World Series, Theo said all season, Kyle Schwarber isn't coming back, Kyle Schwarber isn't coming back, Kyle Schwarber isn't coming back. Got to the World Series, Kyle Schwarber came back.
Kyle Schwarber's like, let me see 1,000 pitches.
No, that's the same for all sports, though. If you win a chip, you're obviously probably thinking about coming back to the team. I think the thing is with the Warriors and Celtics, though, if they go to the finals, the biggest factor is going to be Brad Stevens. Because as great as a coach as Steve Kerr is, I see a lot of mistakes that he makes. Like, he should run the pick and roll more. It's deadly. They score off of it every single time. They don't run it enough in games, and I feel like Brad Stevens always knows what's going on and what's going to happen, and he can always put players and pieces into like a puzzle where like everything works out.
I legitimately think Steve Kerr has gotten lazy as a coach because he hasn't had to coach. He let Luke Walton coach for half a season. He let Mike Brown coach for half a season. Those aren't great coaches. Luke Walton, maybe he could be.
Yeah, he could be. The time that was the best start in NBA history was when Luke Walton was coaching. I think they went like 25-0.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
you're right.
Mike Brown is definitely a bad coach.
Yeah, he is not
a bad
good
head coach.
Yeah,
but even with that Warriors team, he did marvelous. Really? Okay. So I think that Steve Kerr's gotten lazy in his coaching style, and it's probably because you've got one of the greatest teams ever assembled. So you don't have to coach as hard. But I think that if you get a Brad Stevens who is going to find whatever flaws and mistakes that you have, I think Steve Kerr is going to have to step his clipboard game up.
And I think the biggest thing is I really felt like Brad Stevens was going to expose the center position with the Warriors because they had Zaza and JaVale. And JaVale is a good player, but he makes a lot of mistakes. And
he should be a better player.
Yeah, he was going to be like, I think if they went to the finals and they still had JaVale and Zaza, I think Al Horford would have averaged like 18, 19 that series just because of how much advantage he could take of the center position, because Al Horford's gonna be by the 3-point line a lot of the times. Like, he's gonna be in the post, of course, but when he's by the 3-point line, Zaza's gonna have to move out or JaVale's gonna have to move out, and they're not that fast of players. And I know that Al Horford's a smart player, so he would get the best of them.
See, I understand that, but I still think that if the Celtics made it, they still would have lost. Because,
in like
because
6
they
or
don't.
7 for me though.
Well, I think 5. 5.
Gentleman sweep.
Wait, what?
Gentlemen sweep.
Yeah. I think 5, and it's just like. Celtics are a good team, but the problem with LeBron was that they didn't have a closer, which was Kyrie. That's his job on that team. They couldn't have someone who could close out the game, and so they tried to do it with Jaylen Brown. They tried to do it with Terry Rozier. They tried to do it with Jason Tatum, but guess what? All those guys aren't Kyrie Irving. LeBron James even preferred Kyrie Irving closing the game out before he closed the game out, and that says something about Kyrie's game. That's what they need, and they don't have it. Now, the good thing is that they have Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward isn't a closer, but he's definitely going to help you at every point before that point, before you have to close.
He's in between.
And this is what you need. Now, I don't know how they're going to play against the Warriors. I think it's going to be really cool to see how it pans out. I'm going to see if we have to see how Gordon Hayward comes back. We have to see how Kyrie comes back. I feel like they're going to come back fine, but it's going to be interesting. But I think that's going to be it for today. Maybe sometime in this future, we're going to talk about seeding, what we're thinking about what the playoffs are going to be like coming up this year. But that's it for today. This is the Unbearables podcast.
Wait. Can I plug real quick?
Yeah, you can plug. Yeah, that's fine.
So you can find my podcast, Smack Talk, Leave It on the Court. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Music, obviously YouTube. We do a weekly show every Sunday. You can follow the podcast at Smack Talk Podcast. Follow me at The Real Cerebral. I was going to change it today, but I didn't. That's really it. Thank you guys for having me on, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. Also, we have a playlist of their videos on our channel, so if you check that out too. So you don't even have to go far. You could just, check that out and go straight into it if you want to check it out. But that'll be it for today. And now let's start this again. I guess this is the Unbearables podcast. I'm Brandon Ruiz, and I'm here with
Emilio,
Zeke Cappel,
and Cerebral.
Thanks for listening.